Hello everyone, welcome back to my reading of Fate's Strange Fake Volume 4. Today, we're doing Interlude, the backstage at a third-rate comedy, and, well then I think, judging from what we saw last time, it'll be another full chapter after that, so let's see what it means to be backstage at a third-rate comedy. Like stand-up, is that what we're doing? We'll have to see. Backstage at a third-rate comedy. Go back to when Sigma's group met. When Sigma revealed that he was another master participating in the Holy Grail War, the Asian woman who called herself Ayaka had looked a little wary. Saber, however, had displayed no particular concern. "I don't suppose you'd be willing to introduce your heroic spirit as well?" he had asked in a clear, resonant voice. "I can't afford to show my hand." Sigma shook his head. He shouted, "Chaplain!" Assassin, who was observing him from the sidelines, cut in. Sigma fell silent. Ayaka's eyes widened in surprise. "Oh, I've definitely heard that name. One of that actor's works was among the films at the club yesterday." Saber's eyes began to shine conspicuously again. Sigma's emotions were too weak for him to break out in a cold sweat. He did, however, feel that things had become difficult. What would happen if he explained that he made a contract with or been possessed by a servant called Watcher? If they believed him, he might be able to survive, assuming that he played his cards right. Considering that the advice that the Shadows had given him during his earlier escape from Assassin, his ability to extract information could certainly be considered powerful. If he could pass himself off as a resource, then surely anyone would consider that it would be beneficial to use him, then kill him. Such doubts passed through his mind, but they were not enough to change it. He'd already decided to fight, not as Soldier A, but as Sigma. It was not a life-changing resolution. The Shadows had pushed him into it. It was an uncertain objective, but at least he had no reason to stay Soldier A out of duty to his employer, Francesca. Sigma was wondering if simply not wanting to die was a good enough reason to settle on a lifestyle. Still, carelessly antagonizing the heroic spirits in front of him would shorten his life. He decided to keep the conversation friendly while concealing his own heroic spirit's abilities for the present. "Won't you introduce him now? We know his name, and I wish to pay my respects to an actor." He says that actors show themselves in film. He won't appear in front of people as himself. Sigma had come up with a suitable excuse to deflect Saber's request. Still, he thought, it was not a very convincing one. "I see," Saber nodded, emphatically ignoring him. "I can understand." "You would." Ayaka glared reproachfully at Saber, but made no effort to press the matter. Having secured a quasi-armistice, Sigma returned to his room and heaved a sigh of relief. They decided on the utmost mutual secrecy. He would not intrude on Ayaka's affairs, so that they would not question his position or allegiance. He had made the proposal, and Saber had, surprisingly, given it the okay without difficulty. Was it possible that Saber always prioritized his own instincts and feelings and, as a general rule, did not think about anything? Sigma followed that sudden thought with a more frightening idea. The fact that Saber had left his mark on the world as a hero, despite putting his emotions first, meant that he was hiding enough power to make up for it. At that point, a shadow, in the form of a knight who Sigma had not noticed beside him, spoke. "You have good instinct. That is indeed the sort of king he is. A passionate man who puts his emotions at the moment first. His true name is Richard, the Lionheart, although I doubt you would know that name. Do you even know— oh my god. Do you even know the story of King Arthur's Grail Quest?" "Even I know that much. It's a Monty Python comedy." Oh my god. Okay. The knight, again, the fact that Monty Python is canon to Fate is strange when stuff from Monty Python then exists also in Fate. Well, okay. I guess it's one of those things where we both reference it and it exists. The knight fell silent for some reason and then vanished. The captain continued in his place. "Well, in any case, that Richard boy lords over the emotional battlefield like his own front garden. He's a lion in a man's skin. Well, That explains that ascension. But the people still loved him. He might have some secret trick for manipulating the human heart. Keep a wary eye on him. In other words, don't let your guard down. It was certainly possible that trusting people so easily was a bluff. Sigma thought that he would have to take care to avoid a knife in the back. On the other hand, he wanted to see how far he could take the armistice. Making it through the night is all well and good, but how should I handle myself from now on? His first objective was to survive. He felt that even more strongly after his confrontation with Assassin. The shadow of death weighed far heavier on him than it did on any ordinary mission. He was in urban America, but it felt almost like the childhood he had spent in that country. Sigma was beginning to feel nostalgic when a sudden thought struck him. Would an ordinary human be more frightened or panicked? He had an idea that the people he had encountered on missions, at least, would have lived more desperately in similar circumstances. A lot's been done to my head. Is it just trying to compare myself to other people crazy? Or is just trying, right? He let out a little sigh and realized that, after all, a sound sleep and steady meals were sufficient life goals for the time being. They were things that, in this country, in a normal home, he could enjoy without effort. But Sigma knew countries where that was not the case, his homeland, for example, and therefore recognized that sound sleep and food were indeed valuable. In that sense, my safest bet would be to join Faldius, who has the backing of the state. But I doubt relying on that would be enough to survive this Grail War. That's the feeling I get. Sigma continued to deliberate until dawn when he received communication from Faldius himself. Cattle calling famine. Any movements? A woman who appears to be Assassin appeared in the mansion, and I came under attack. Oh, the one who attacked the police station. I'm impressed you survived. Or was the servant you summoned superior? What about Assassin? Or what became of Assassin? Faldius' tone conveyed faint surprise. He had a low opinion of Sigma as a mage, and had probably not expected him to survive his first battle of the Grail War. Saber and his master arrived after that, and offered a ceasefire. I accepted. What? Faldius fell into a series of thoughtful silences as Sigma proceeded with his report. He issued Sigma only the bare minimum in the way of instructions. They were to propose an alliance against the King of Heroes and the equally powerful Lancer, while attempting to glean information. Sigma thought that might prove difficult. After all, no sooner had he received that order than the shadow with the mechanical wings appeared to say, "Oh, they've already made an alliance with Enkidu, the Lancer who rivals the King of Heroes. Saber's group, I mean." Sigma was wondering whether he ought to report that to Faldius when Faldius cut in with a question of his own. "By the way, have you determined the identity of the heroic spirit you summoned?" Yes. My heroic spirit is..." Should he at least report to Faldius truthfully? "Watch out," the captain smirked from behind him. "Assassin's got her eyes on you." Sigma glanced at the mirror on the dressing table. He had a feeling that the shadows in the corner of the room were blacker than usual. Besides, while the shadows were not above deliberately withholding important information, it never lied. Thinking that he should eliminate as many hostile factors as possible, Sigma pretended not to notice and answered matter-of-factedly. "Chaplain. Lancer Charlie Chaplain. That's the heroic spirit I summoned." "Sorry, could you repeat that?" "Lancer Charlie Chaplain. I will ascertain his noble phantasm and skills before long. I've determined that using a command seal to force him to talk is not a good strategy." I like to believe that this line here, about forcing him to talk is not good. What's Charlie Chaplin's most famous speaking role? That's right. Hitler. So, like, yeah, let's not have him speak, you know? And if he's a Lancer, then we're one step closer to Hitler with the Lance of Longinus again, right? Anyways, excuse us. Sigma switched off the earphone-shaped magical communicator and sighed. "Was that an ally you put trust in?" "You were here, Assassin?" "I do not fully trust you. Answer the question." Assassin glared daggers through the gap in her hood. "I don't trust anyone," Sigma answered. "Not my employer, or even myself. I don't even believe in gods, demons, or even the magecraft I use. After a pause, Assassin spoke again. She sounded confused. Do you not pray to any god? No, I don't know what they call God's grace yet. Assassin then asked Sigma why he did not believe in God. Sigma was still considering how to express it so that people would understand as he started to answer. I don't see enough meaning in living to call just being born God's grace. I've seen children from my village who died as soon as they were born, before they even had time to open their eyes. The people who raised us would tear fetuses, that hadn't even been born yet, out of their mothers' bellies to use in magical experiments. They raised us to make mystic weapons. It seemed like a serious past to begin with, but Sigma went on relating it to Assassin dispassionately as a list of facts. The people who raised me said that. The people who ran the country were gods. But that country was destroyed by a group that called themselves mages. So I don't even know what God is. I think that believing in them without understanding them just might be a nuisance to them. What am I saying? I won't communicate anything like this. I accidentally ended up answering honestly, but how is anyone supposed to trust me when I don't trust anyone in the first place? Sigma decided that he had finally gotten his answer fundamentally wrong and regretted it. However, I see. I'm sorry. I've reminded you of something that must have been painful. There was something kind in Assassin's voice as she answered. The hostility that had remained in it until the moment before had completely vanished. Don't let it bother you. It's a common story. Compared to the mercenaries from my village who are still in war zones, I'm sure I'm blessed, although I can't appreciate it very well. Sigma had spent the better part of the year battling demonic beasts and stray mages while he was under Francesca's employ. Still, when he came to an urban area like this and saw scenes of war zones on TV, he could not help thinking that he should, by all rights, have died a dog's death out there while he was still a child. Even so, he could not bring himself to think of his present circumstances as God's grace. Assassin gave a little shake of her head at him. Those covered in sorrow and suffering are everywhere. In the human world, suffering and sorrow are as common as joy and pleasure. But even so, one must not laugh them off as ordinary. Assassin narrowed her eyes and watched Sigma as she spoke. You aren't like the mages I've faced before. You truly believe in nothing. That's what your eyes say. But you don't deny all creation. You just haven't found anything sufficient to earn your faith. Sigma felt like he had been seen through. He tried to look away but could not move his gaze, like Assassin's deep eyes were sucking him in. I am now sullied by a demon's magical energy, in addition to being immature. Ordinarily, I ought to speak to you about faith, but I've lost that right. After rebuking herself, she addressed Sigma again. Still, I wish that, when a thing worthy of your belief is finally born, that it will be at least a good thing. When she was done wishing, not praying, Assassin put the room behind her. Sigma stood dumbfounded for a little while, until a voice called out to him from behind. What's the matter? Don't tell me it's love at first sight. Hey! It was a large, muscular shadow. Sigma quietly shook his head. I'm wondering what this watcher, what are they? No, it's the first time anyone's really wished for something for me, apart from Francesca's pleading. Sigma thought for a moment, then asked the shadow, Hey, are food and a good night's sleep a good thing? Nah, I mean to start with, a good night's sleep isn't something you believe in. A few hours later, the captain's voice woke Sigma from a doze in a chair. Hey boy, you awake? Sigma, who had deliberately kept his sleep shallow in case of emergency, responded immediately. What is it? We don't answer unless we're asked, except when it's dangerous. Some of your friends, a team called Thorn or something like that, are spread out around us. I almost said among us. Thorn was the code name given to Faldius's operation teams. Similarly, Faldius was cattle and Sigma was famine. Thorn, however, was a particularly heavily armed anti-mage assault team. Sigma had seen them shoot the body of a puppeteer called Rongal into pieces through the eyes of a familiar. "Looks as though you aren't trusted, boy," Captain chuckled. "Fellow called Faldius gave them orders to observe you. Watcher can't see into minds, though, so I don't know how Faldius plans to serve you up in the end." To be frank, Sigma's ability was not up to taking out an entire unit. If they'd been ordered to dispose of him, he would not be able to put up a fight unless his servant provided actual fighting power. It'd be one thing if he was up against a local gang, but he did not even have the firepower to break through an anti-mage team in tactical formation, even if Watcher's ability allowed him to grasp the movements of all its members. I see. It makes sense that, if I don't trust, they won't either. I don't think it's likely, but it's also possible that Chaplin's been exposed as a lie. The Shadow, having gathered that Sigma had seriously believed that he would be able to deceive Faldius, seemed to want to say something, but Sigma walked off before he could begin. In order to obtain firepower, he was considering putting someone in his debt and getting them to repay him at the same time. He pretended to be making a communication, then gave a warning, starting with Assassin, who he met on his way. "I just got word from my real employer. They say that this house is surrounded by a U.S. Special Forces unit." Even as he used his real employer, Francesca, as a pretext, Sigma continued to think. He was pondering what path should he walk, not following orders as he had done until now, but of his own will, and purely for his own survival. All the while wishing to himself, and to Watcher, for the power to light his way even just one step ahead. Boy, that was a bad comedy club. There was no comedy. Oh, there's another interlude. Never mind, we're at another interlude. Genius was not built in a day, and all magecraft leads to disaster. Okay, that's one that I didn't get to. Didn't realize. Wait, or is it a typo? It's another typo. This is another real normal chapter. Oh my god. Well, let's go. All right. Genius was not built in a day. All magecraft leads to disaster. Ooh, we're back to the Escardos family. The Escardos family was one of a particularly old lineage, even among the mages of the Mediterranean basin. One rumor had it that they had operated before the formation of the clock tower, alongside the magician Kishir Zelrech Svinorg, and the mages who had been active in the centuries following the dawn of the Common Era. No one at the clock tower believed it, and more importantly, neither did the Escardos heirs themselves. After all, for as old as their line was, it had produced no worthwhile results. Even their magic crest had only age to recommend it. The greater part of the spells it incorporated were indecipherable even to the heirs themselves, to the point that their descendants suspected that they might only be bluffs made up to look like magecraft. Still, it did include advanced life preservation capabilities, and so they managed to cling to their dignity as an old family. The Escardos lineage maintained itself on an output of magical patents that diminished with each successive generation. Even at the clock tower, they were mocked as moldering antiques. If only their magic circuits would develop. The past several centuries of Escardos family heads had fretted. Strangely, their magic circuits remained few down the generations. No matter how exemplary a mage's blood they drew in or how many generations they did so, the growth of their circuits remained barely perceptible. Still, they thought it was better than declining. In one sense, the fact that their magic crest had yet to show signs of reaching the end of its lifespan, despite the antiquity of the lineage, was a threat. On that point, even they were sometimes discussed as research subjects, even in the clock tower. The Escardos found that preferable to their crest reaching its limits, their circuits gradually dying out and being swallowed up by the passages of time, disappearing as mages, as had happened to the Makiri. I mean, kind of. I mean, Sakura is still alive, but I guess we don't count that. Or that says a lot about what route this led to, you know? Because isn't it normally like, if I'm correct, and I might be wrong, I'm pretty sure the El Malloy timeline is usually the one that's, like Unlimited Blade Works, right? So there's a chance that none of the stuff happened and they don't know about Sakura and the Matos, right? Like that stuff didn't happen. Entirely possible, but we'll see. They worked desperately to shore up their footing as mages in order to avoid that fate, even if other mages laughed that it was a wasted effort. After a few centuries of that, an abnormality was born into the Escardos family. His magic circuit count was genuinely an order of magnitude greater than the previous generations. They were like capillaries, circulating odd through every inch of his body. Genius skill in magical energy control, the originality to combine spells from the past into unique new magecraft, and magic circuits unparalleled within his lineage. It was the birth of a truly ideal successor. A descendant with the abilities that powerless yet stable Escardos family thought it had wished for, however, ended up sending them into a deep decline. That was because at the same time his talents began to bud, it became clear he was entirely lacking the mental attitude that we called a mage's most important attribute. The boy had the ability to see it since childhood. For that reason, he thought of it as perfectly ordinary and assumed everybody could see it as well. He soon realized, however, that he was mistaken. He was not yet 10 years old when he was told that he belonged to a line of special people called mages. Once he learned that, he assumed that it was because he was a mage he could see it. While talking with his parents and other mages they had dealings with, however, he came to understand that he was mistaken in that as well. It seemed that his parents did not see the same world he did. When that boy sensed that, he felt fear. He still had no definite way of communicating the nature of that fear to others. Watch him just, like have autism. Like, oh no, we got the most strongest potential mage ever, but he has autism and is very empathetic. It's over, right? That's kind of what it feels like. When its parents first noticed their son's eccentricity, they wondered if they'd been possessed by some delusion. Oh my god, it is just autism. After numerous examinations, however, they are forced to conclude that the boy seemed to be speaking the truth. The certainty that the Escardos son possessed powerful mystic eyes sparked a brief commotion, but both the boy's eyeballs turned out to be ordinary. The fact that he was clearly able to see it in spite of that puzzled the mages around him. To the boy himself, it was normal. The looks he got, however, seemed almost to say, "We can't explain how, despite being human, you're breathing through gills." He gradually came to view the things he could see as unpleasant. After all, it was because of what he could see that he more than once had nearly been murdered by his parents. Oh, we heard a bit about that before. Still, it was also thanks to what he could see that he had survived, so he could not completely reject it. He loved magecraft and he loved humans. What would become of him if he ended up hating something so intimately connected to both of them? Such anxieties plagued that boy since childhood. On his way to a certain boat party, okay, that's absolutely his time meeting the vampire who owns a casino, Ven Fem, right? He encountered a woman who seemed to be a mage or something close to it. Who's this? There's a couple people this could be. She must have noticed the boy's worries during the small talk they made when she asked him on the way to the harbor. "If you got worries about magecraft," she remarked casually as she boarded a luxurious passenger ship, "start by studying it. If you can't count on your family, you might try the clock tower." But who is this? There's a couple this could be. The woman mage's words lodged in the boy's heart. If he went to the clock tower, he thought he might be able to understand it. So, he had gone to consult his parents, who had just failed their 5th assassination plot. Oh, either he's crazy, like just premonition stuff, or they're terrible. "I want to leave home and study at the clock tower," said the boy. He was not yet 10 years old, and yet he's going to the like casino ship. Okay. In Morocco, because again, he lived in Morocco apparently. As a result, the boy's parents had driven him out by way of ridding themselves of a nuisance, under the pretense of unveiling their wonder child and sending him to the clock tower. As a matter of fact, when they saw a boy with an abnormal number of magic circuits who had mastered the use of magecraft far beyond his years, many professors grew excited that a genius who would leave his name in the clock tower's history had appeared, but things did not proceed that smoothly. The boy did possess magic circuits, the likes of which had never been seen, as well as the talent to control them. Yet, despite his first-rate magic circuits and sensory magecraft, he could never manage to correct his idiosyncratic temperament or his complete lack of a mage's mindset. The instructors gradually began to shun him. They had a rough stone of the first water, but they could not polish it. Seeing raw stone shine more brilliantly than polished gems hurt the pride of the instructors who had tried to further their own interests. He ended up chasing the boy out. A professor called Rocco Belphegor strove patiently to reform the boy while he was being passed around like that. In the end, however, even that old professor began to be baffled at the boy's personality and other parts. One day he made a proposal. An eccentric newcomer had just opened up a school. Although he was one of the Clock Tower's lords, I know exactly who this is. Although he was one of the Clock Tower's lords, his sensibilities was a little different from the average mage's. That man might be able to teach the boy what he wanted to learn. And so the boy went to meet the newly minted lord. He was glumly sure that he would have been kicked out and that his next teacher would be the same. I might be sick. I try so hard to act like a proper mage, so why can't I do it? Guess another professor ended up hating me. I wonder how long it'll be before the next one does too. Even as the boy thought such thoughts, he did his best to smile. He worked magecraft on the muscles of his face, desperate to maintain a cheerful expression. Although he had never learned it, he had known how to smile since he was a young child. In order to act like a mage, the boy poured his energy into constructing a forced smile. He worked the spell to fix his... That's crazy. He worked the spell to fix his muscles in a smile over and over and over again. When his heart was about to break from the thought that he might end up doing it forever, that man appeared before the boy. You're Flatus Scardos. The boy, they say, can handle a wide range of magecraft, regardless of mana or odd, and even without knowledge. A young man with a scowl and a furrowed brow greeted Flat as he entered the room. He was excessively tall, and his hair was excessively long. The thing that drew most Flat's attention was that, of all the people who called themselves instructors he had met, the man had the lowest internal concentration of magical energy. Flat stared curiously at the little shadow poking its head out from behind the man. It was a child his own age, glaring daggers at him and growling like an animal. Professor, he smells all messed up. Can I break him? Give it a rest, Sven. Oh, Sven, right, yeah. He's an invited guest, at least for now. The mage who had been called Professor turned to re-examine the boy who had just entered the room. There was no insincere smile on his face as he spoke. Why are you doing that with your face? Are you testing me or mocking me? Otherwise, if that's your way of getting on the world, you better rethink it quick. What? I'm telling you that children shouldn't use magecraft to force smiles. Wait, was this turned to the boy? Oh no, this is the professor. Never mind. I thought this was Sven again. Right? Yeah. Because I was like, children. That's him. Yeah, I'm telling you that children shouldn't use magecraft to force smiles. The boy was shocked. He had been certain that he had perfectly isolated all signs of magecraft and that no outside observers would realize that he was using it to smile. Was it possible that this person could see the same things he could? Is it like, can he see like the flow of magic maybe? Huh. What is it? Do you have a question? Yeah, okay. For a moment he hoped, but soon realized that he was mistaken. What is it? Do you have a question? Yes, sir. How did you know? Anyone could tell at a glance. When you move your smile, your zygomaticus minor, oh no, medical terms, Razorius, and Levita Anguli Oris move in an order that ignores their proper functions. Proof you're using magecraft to force your expression into place. I assume you only valued results and attempted to trace them. It appears, however, you neglected to observe the process. An immature way of thinking that leads to handling magecraft without knowledge. I acknowledge your talent, but you'd best mend it. The quick explanation was not what the boy had hoped for, but he did not despair. The world that the tall mage in front of him could see was different from his. Still, he had a feeling that what the mage saw was different from what the boy's parents and other mages did as well. It was only a faint presentiment at that point. Even so, the boy released a spell on his own face and bobbed his head to the mage with the first real smile he had worn in a long time. I'm called Flat. Again, the fact that it's not my name is, but that's crazy, but we heard why they called him that. I look forward to attending your lectures, Professor. I refuse. Or so I'd like to say, but you come with a letter of recommendation from Mr. Belphegor, so I can't turn you down out of hand. The mage sighed, then scowled at the boy, Flat, as he continued. Fine. Class begins soon. Sit in the corner and at least get used to the atmosphere. At that, the child beside the mage, the boy called Sven, stared wide-eyedly from the mage to Flat. What? He's really going to be my junior? That prickly smell is definitely going to make trouble for you, Professor. Better to bite before you're bitten. Wow, biting. You're almost like Le Chien. Still. Oh, wait. No, that's... Wait. That's not Professor. That's him, right? Because he does call him Le Chien, right? We learned about that in... Right. Flat calls him Le Chien. I forgot about that. Wow, biting. You're almost like Le Chien. That means the dog in French. Still, you're kind of cool. See, he talks nonsense, but he doesn't smell like he's lying. He smells totally broken, dangerous. Destroy him before he destroys the school. Seeing Sven bark like an animal somehow made Flat glad, because he's slightly more normal. Being the object of such straightforward emotion, even if it was bestial animosity, was a fresh experience to him. It was so different from the way that the apprentices in his previous departments had looked at him. From a distance, they were like watching something uncanny. Flat was thrilled. His eyes shone. He stared at the face of the boy who gave off an animal odor that could equally be taken for wolf, tiger, or lion, and began to mutter something under his breath. Lobo? Beethoven? Like from the movie? No, maybe Le Chien after all. Wait a minute. Those had better not be contenders for what you're going to call me. Sven seemed ready to pounce at any moment. Sighing, the mage laid a restraining hand on his head. Pipe down. Do you want to be kicked out? At that point, young mages began to file in one after the other. It seemed that Flat was not the only newcomer to the class. That's the Lord, some said, eyes shining. That's the Lord? Others wondered. All their eyes were on the mage. Shortly after, Flat plopped down in the corner of the classroom as instructed, and we can see him here. Bestial boy established himself in the center of the front row. The mage gave his name to the class. We don't even need to hear it. Or no, we do. Department of Modern Magecraft. Third in class instructor Waver Velvet was my name until a short while ago. Then he gave the name of the man who was to change the destinies of many mages, Flat included, and go down in the history of the clock tower. Now, I'm the second. I'm borrowing the name Lord El Malloy, the second. Okay, so I need to remember what Sven looked like, because I forget what he looks like. Because in my brain, he looks the same as him. Okay, so he looks very similar. Right? He looks very similar. That's what I'm remembering. Yeah, Sven Glashit. Right? Like, he looks very similar to Flat. Yeah, when you put them side by side, they're two little blonde fellas. Right? So they look roughly the same. That's why I was confused. I'm like, I forget who's who. But I'll remember as we continue on, I guess, because Flat's the funny one who was in Morocco. Sven is the one who does animal magecraft. That's all I remember, so we'll need to learn more. Day 2, noon, the main street. 10 years had gone by since their first meeting, and Flat's destiny had certainly changed. He had experienced such an acrobatic flip that he had gone from being slowly driven out of the world and into himself participating in a Holy Grail war held in distant America. In exchange, Lord El Malloy II had ended up with stomach ulcers, but that's a different story. Well, let's get going, Berserker. Yes, let's. Flat was currently handcuffed by Jack, who had transformed into a police officer. Even Flat was not enough of a fool to come as he was. In addition to disguising himself, he had adjusted his internal circulation of magical energy and prepared his wards that mages would not sense them. He pulled a cap low over his eyes, sunglasses, and a leather jacket that did not suit him. Hey, he said, let me go. Let go of me. I'm innocent. I didn't kill my wife. The man with the prosthetic arm is the real culprit. Yes, I think it would be better if you didn't speak. Really? Flat had begun to shout in perfect monotone. At word from Jack, however, he lapsed into silence and trudged dejectedly after him. When they were about to pass through the entrance, he looked up, wiping the expression from his face. What is it? Or what is it? There are wards, many layers thick. Maybe they were broken recently? I get the feeling they were recast in a hurry. I see. How many seconds will it take? 5 will be enough to fool it about your existence, Flat answered easily and crouched down on the spot. What's the problem? An officer who happened to come through the entrance just then asked Jack. Oh, he was drunk and making a scene in broad daylight. I brought him in all right, but he says he doesn't feel so good, so I'm giving him a short rest. I see. Sounds rough. Don't let him puke there, okay? They're not totally finished investigating yesterday's terror attack. Sure, don't worry. As the conversation unfolded behind him, Flat quietly whispered his personal incantation. Game select. What? Is he a gamer too? Flat remained squatting and placed his hand on the floor, inserting a new spell into the part of the ward he touched. He had begun a large-scale hacking on the barrier. He was allowing his own magical energy to soak into the gaps in the intricately arranged wards, conducting repairs while fooling the detection functions into believing that he was their maker. He completed the spell in roughly 4 seconds and slipped it into the wards. It was like an automatic program that would continuously alter the ward's significance as Flat wished. Game over, Flat murmured with a grin, and slowly stood up. Thank you, officer. I feel better now. I see. Let's go then. He doesn't look drunk to me, the officer wondered, seeing Flat's refreshed face, but he left the pair as they were, presumably had his own duties to attend to. And so, Flat and Jack stepped into the police station. Flat could justly be called the least determined master in this Grail War. Even so, he took a step forward. The resolution he kept in his heart was so faint that it was almost transparent. That gave it a certain purity. It was to confront those creeping shadows of these events head on. Okay. Now we're at Crystal Hill, 20 meters below ground. The city of Snowville did not have a subway system. This would make Japanese readers go, "What? That's impossible. How can that be?" But that makes everyone from the United States reading it go, "Yep, that's about right." Anyways, instead it had an immense subterranean space situated 50 meters below the city center, a space controlled by the mages and state agency that had built the city. Between that space and the surface, 20 meters below ground, was a smaller scale controlled areas. One of these was allotted as the workshop of Castor, Alexandre Dumas Père. I mean, the casino and there's a casino and a red light district and classy restaurants right over my head, and I'm not even free to go enjoy myself? Talk about cruelty. What I even show up as a heroic spirit for? Dumas sighed and turned his attention to the 5 or so young people in front of him. Why not? When you make money, you better spend it. You get me? Money's like food. It'll go bad on you when you're busy thinking it's too good to waste. He grumbled, but his hands never stopped moving. I told you, bro. Your boss earlier. Back in the old days, I'd use most of the money I'd make to build myself a dream of a mansion. The second floor was done up with busts of all sorts of geniuses. Old Hugo, Goethe, Homer, Shakespeare, the works. And in the pride of the place was a bust of me, you get me? Spent a mint getting a first-rate sculptor to make it. Amazing, right? Yeah, amazing in more than one sense of the word. Dumas kept on making his pen race without turning at the doubtful response that came from behind him. He was writing sentences in French on something like a scroll. That son of a bitch Balzac took one look at my house and said, "Yes, one look is more than enough to see you're joking. Still joking this well is actually refreshing." I couldn't work out if he was complimenting or insulting me. Oh yeah, shockingly, he came as far as the front gate, although he probably went home in disgust. Are you talking about friggin' the actual... Wait, please tell me that this is talking about the actual, Count of Monte Cristo. Whoops, slip of the tongue. Just forget I said it. Dumas chuckled as he dipped his pen in the inkwell. At that, it's either that or Zelrech or like the Saint Germain we learned about earlier. At that point, he finally turned to look behind him. So, only 5 of you. Bro's being real careful, isn't he? he asked with a shrug of his shoulders, then turned back to his paper. One of the assembled people, a young man who was a member of Clan Calatin, addressed him. Excuse us, most of us were dispatched to the disturbance in the factory district, so... The apology came from a man somewhere between 25 and 30. That said, his face looked younger than his real age. He could easily pass for a rookie officer. He was the officer who had lost his right hand below the wrist in the recent battle with the bloodsucker. The wound was currently covered by a special cast and wrapped in bandages. Well, doesn't matter. I'm just lucky you're here. So, did you get Bro's permission to fight? Not yet. The officer clenched his left fist in frustration. The chief's words had been, unless you can prove you won't get in the way, I won't put you back on the front lines. So what's your reason for fighting in the first place? Dumas asked, continuing his writing. What? You want a chance to drop out of a war full of mages where anybody might die at any time. What are you trying to get back into it for? What's in it for you? The officer who had lost his right hand considered the question for a moment before answering in a clear voice. Because, as you say, Caster, anyone might die at any time. Oh? No, none of us the chief brought together think of ourselves as mages. What are you then? Dumas asked, still writing. We're police officers, the man replied. In a situation where anybody might die, it's our job to save as many people as possible. Dumas heard that answer, given without emotional hesitation, and laughing delightedly, posed another question. Pretty words. Can they put food in your belly? If you manage to build a mansion, I can manage food. Ha! Get a load of the mouth on you. Are my novels pretty words? Seeing Dumas rise to his feet, the 5 officers could not help breaking out in a cold sweat. It was easy to fall into the trap of thinking of Dumas as bookish because he was a novelist. In reality, however, he had a highly active side. It was said that even as he neared his last years, he had gone personally hunting wild beasts in order to write a cookbook. I need to know if that's real. Listen, that sounds crazy. Alexandre Dumas cookbook. Please tell me it's real. Please. Oh my god. From absence to zest, an alphabet for food lovers, and also the dictionary of cuisine. I want to read. I want these. I'm gonna find. I mean, they're ancient books. I could probably get them online. This is insane. I need these. Okay, that's so good. So good. No wonder he's in this. He brings in the cooking too. The intimidating physique he had inherited from his father. Okay, a military man who had served under Napoleon, recalled the anecdote. Even I could probably beat him in a brawl, the chief had said. To the officers, however, the outcome of a straight exchange of fists seems less certain. Dumas, cloaked in that air of intimidation, took the arm of the officer who had lost his right hand and... They are? Wait. Are your novels pretty words? They are. He shrugged and made to fit something over the officer's right wrist. I like other things too, but heroes who talk a lot of high-sounding ideas and see them through to the end sell like mad in newspapers and on stage. There. At last, there was a satisfying clang. The officer felt a light pressure and the proper weight on his right wrist. It's tough to say. Attached to the officer's right arm was a perfectly fitted prosthetic hand. It's got a special gimmick. I'll tell you about it later. No, but the chief still hasn't... The officer stared at the hand in confusion. John Wingard, Castor addressed him, returning to his writing. 28. Born in New York, just like my accent. Blood type AB. Second son of a family of mages. Didn't inherit the family crest. What? The officer stared at Dumas in shock at hearing his name and a litany of personal information. Dumas grinned broadly as he continued. Sorry, but I did my homework on all of you. You lost your mother as a kid, and that's why you became a police officer. That's right, John. Didn't want anyone else to share your sorrow? Oh, I wasn't thinking anything so noble. I just wanted revenge. Oh, no need to affirm it. You gotta allow me my pretty words. Revenge will do. Grinning, Demas redipped his pen in the inkwell to record a new story. When I was serializing Monte Cristo in the newspaper, everyone from town peddlers to minister's estate wanted to know how the Avenger was going to end up. You'll be getting a lot of chatter too. You're going to use that hand, that legend I cooked up after all. It'll be a lie if you don't make a splash. You tell bro, John. You prove you won't get in the way. Oh, that's really good. Oh, this is good. Okay, I love Alexander Dumas in this. I love him. He's so good. The police station, chief's office. It doesn't make sense. The chief read over the report of the morning's incident in the factory district with confusion. It seemed as though Francesca and her servant had done something. He had no idea what, to put a stop to that disaster that had threatened to spread through the city. Basdelot and Haruri had gone their separate ways. Oh, also, I might have learned. I'm just gonna, for no reason whatsoever, I'm going to open up the list of dead apostle ancestors. I'm going to open up the list of them for just a brief moment, and I'm going to look for the name of one of them. Where are they? I'm scrolling through the list of the ancestors. Are they not actually on here? Was I wrong? Are they not a... Wait, are they not an ancestor? There was someone where I was told about one of them, and that Haruri might be related to one of them, but I cannot find them on here. Let me just bring up the thing people were telling me. Were they not an ancestor? Were they maybe just one of the regular ones? Just gonna double check here because people were talking about it there. Oh, it's just a dead apostle. Okay, yeah. So from the family name, Borzak from Haruri is the B dead apostle from Fate Zero in Kiritsugu's second flashback episode. Yeah, so not an ancestor. My brain thought it was an ancestor. It's not, but it is a one of the dead apostles, and specifically another reference to Zero. So I completely forgot about that. So that's good to know, right? That's a little bit of context. And again, another moment of, as people say, this story needs 55 references or else it explodes. You know, gotta have it all the time. So anyways, Haruri had gone with Basildot their separate ways. Both had slipped through the police surveillance net. The same was true of the Einsburn homunculus, and it was unknown why she had been cooperating with Haruri. That, however, was not what weighed on the chief's mind. Members of Clan Calatin had combined large-scale wards with physical evacuation orders in an attempt to clear the factory district of curious onlookers. Before they had a chance to put their plan into practice, however, a mass evacuation of residents had been observed. The movement of more than 100,000 people living in and around the factory district to the city center and residential areas had been reported as appearing to be a protest march. On top of that, there had been no sightings of rioting or destructive acts by the worst-behaved elements. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? I'd love to know what you mean by that, writer. I'm curious. What do you mean by that? Anyways, they had done nothing except evacuate. Did Francesca do something? No. That old bitch would be happier to see the masses panic. I'm surprised you know about her age. What? That's interesting. That's an interesting thing. She had forced an end to the situation to avoid scrapping the city just yet, but Francesca was essentially someone who fanned the flames of conflict, not extinguished them. The evacuees still seemed to be loitering around the city's center and the residential districts. There's no trace of wide-area magecraft. All that's left is to investigate whether individuals are under the influence of hypnosis or... A knock came on the office door, interrupting his thoughts. Come in. The familiar face of one of his subordinates appeared through that open door. It was a woman who assisted the chief by performing the role of secretary. Chief, I have an urgent matter to report. What is it? Vladis Skardos is in the lobby. What? At his subordinate's words, the chief turned his attention, not to the normal surveillance system, but to the special surveillance monitor installed in his office. There, through the eyes of a familiar, was the boy from the reports. He was, for some reason, handcuffed and scrutinizing his surroundings in a way that made him look highly suspicious. The chief narrowed his eyes at the sight of the police officer accompanying the boy. He was not a member of Clan Coleton, but a normal officer who was supposed to be off duty that day. There was a report that, when he first summoned his heroic spirit in the park, something that appeared to be that heroic spirit took the form of a police officer, correct? Yes, sir. We believe he has infiltrated the station in the company of his heroic spirit. The wards hadn't reacted, so they may be completely isolating their magical energy. I see. One other question. What, sir? Oh, the female officer who acted as secretary asked expressionlessly. The chief appeared to waver for a moment. The next moment, the blade of a Japanese sword was at her throat. Who are you? Dumas's workshop. Mr. Dumas, how are you able to create noble phantasms? One of the police officers had asked. The whole group wore nervous expressions. It was the first time speaking to an allied heroic spirit face to face. It was the great writer Dumas. Some of the officers had come in contact with his Three Musketeers as children. Most of them remembered his works from movies, TV series, and even puppet shows. Dumas answered the fundamental question from one such fan matter-of-factly with a shrug. Heroic spirits can be surprisingly versatile. The stuff you did while you were alive, plus the legends, is open to expanded interpretation. In my case, I wasn't a mage or anything while I was alive, but I did use the money I made to do a lot of things aside from writing. Flashing a grin like a child who has succeeded in some mischief, Dumas cheerfully launched into a recital from his past. Well, when my buddy Garibaldi said he was going to unify Italy, I decided to give him a little push. I ran loads of weapons in my ship, the Emma. Put out a newspaper, too. In exchange, he made me supervisor of a museum that dug up ruins and relics of the past. Man, did it give me a chance to see and touch some fascinating things. Relics of the past. So that mixed with a caster's tool creation and territory creation, and anecdotes about my legal messes into a skill. It's not magecraft. It's the art of faking a noble phantasm's past, its story, and repaste it. The ruins and relics I touched that night might have had an influence. A lot of crazy things turned up from around Pompeii. Oh, interesting. It seemed that he himself did not fully understand why he had acquired that ability. With knowledge the world bestowed on him as a heroic spear, however, he was able to perfectly master it. Dumas chuckled nostalgically and resumed writing on the scroll. Had a lot of trouble around that time, too. It ended up with me getting a roundabout revenge from my old man. Alexander Dumas's father, Thomas, went down in history as a renowned general. The arsenic he was given when he was taken prisoner at Naples wrecked his body and dramatically shortened his life. The invasion of Naples had proceeded with the support of General Thomas's son, Alexandre. Allied townspeople showed their respect by decapitating a statue of the king who had captured his father in front of him. He symbolically avenged his father, if only indirectly. The police officers, however, appeared more interested in Dumas's father than his story of his revenge against the King of Naples. Your father served under Napoleon, didn't he? Enough of that. My old man was under Napoleon, but he had a little policy dispute with his Imperial Majesty. See, my old man was born to some marquis, my grandpa, and a black slave, my grandma. So I'm shocked we're talking about this. I'm very happy. So racism took its course, and they used that as an excuse to kick him out. Thanks to that, my old man wasted away in despair while my mother and I were denied an army pension and left to live in poverty. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that he's, like, half black. And when you look at photos and, like, artwork, you can see there's art where they pretty much had to pretend he was a white man, and then there's art where he could be himself, and it's very interesting. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, then again, when you look at his design in Fate, Strange Fake, kind of some parts of it come off cross as a little bit of a microaggression, I'd say. The teeth feel like one thing and the way of speaking is another, but at the same time, I feel like he'd be okay with it, Do you resent Napoleon then? An officer who had taken an interest in the story ventured. Dumas did not appear to mind. In fact, he proudly continued his reminiscence. It's another funny thing. I saw Napoleon just 2 times after my old man died, but I'll tell that story another time. Dumas cut the story short for the moment. Perhaps he felt it had gone on too long. At that point, however, he recalled another anecdote and began to tell it with gusto. Now that I mention it, I was still a moron back when my dad died. I tried to run up to the 2nd floor with a gun, screaming that I was going to kill the god that killed my old man. Dumb, right? Kid me figured, 'cause heaven was up, a bullet would reach it if I shot from the 2nd floor. Well, you were a child. My mom now, she slapped me and said, "We don't need any heroes picking fights with God." Okay. God, I like him. I like him a lot. Wow, these character designs are way more anime than I thought. I was literally imagining just normal-ass police officers, not these guys. Alexandre Dumas is so cool. He's so cool. Anyways, heroes get dragged around by history until they end up dying and leaving their families behind. Although they get slapped if they blaspheme God before that. You see? Dumas laughed and shrugged his shoulders, but the police officers just exchanged looks. I'm not sure whether they were supposed to laugh at the story or not. Huh? What's the matter? Oh, we weren't sure if we should laugh, and... What? Are you trying to spare my feelings? Go ahead and laugh. Of course, lots of people hesitate to tell a story like that, so maybe it's a bad idea to talk too freely about the past. Still, if my silly reminiscences will help somebody kill time, I'll tell as many as they like. I might spice them up a bit for my speaking fee, though. So? He asked the officers without pause. You satisfied? You, won't get many chances to talk with a great officer like me. If there's anything you want to ask, now's the time. The officers were starting to notice that Dumas liked to talk and beginning to think that they ought to draw more boasts out of him to keep him in a good mood. When John, who was flexing his prosthetic hand in an effort to accustom himself to it, asked a question with a serious look on his face. Can we win? I'm an author, not a tactician or a prophet. The noble phantasms you've created are truly amazing, but we who can use them are still human. Can imitation human spirits beat those monsters with just noble phantasms? At that, Dumas fell silent for a moment. Then he cracked his neck and spoke. This'll be another story about my past, but when I first started out, I had no interest in plays and novels. My mother made me read nothing but dull old tragedies, and I got fed up with them. Till one day, I saw one called Hamlet. It was different. I was overwhelmed. I begged for a copy of the script and read it over so many times I learned it by heart. That's what got me interested in theater. One of my beginnings. You can see that with Hamlet. It's William Shakespeare's masterpiece. Dumas watched the police officer's agreement with a broad grin. Then, he told the continuation of the story with the eyes of a child who had just succeeded in some mischief. As a matter of fact, that Hamlet was translated or adapted by a guy called Dickus. No, that's probably not how you say it, but he would. Anyway, he tore the original apart and rewrote it as a translation in his own style. I was too shocked to stand when I read the real script Shakespeare wrote later on. Compared to the real thing, what I'd seen was a hack job that makes Shakespeare or any fan of the original furious. It was a real imitation Hamlet. Dumas cackled, and his roars of laughter abruptly cut off, and he turned his face toward the officers, and his lips twisted into a broad grin. Still, it was that imitation that changed my life. Nobody can deny that. Of course, that was probably because the original was too good. Still, fake or not, it had old Dickus's real passion in it. Then, handing the officers their weapons, which he had finished repairing and improving before they knew it, and declared with the cheerful face of an audience member watching a comedy with the confidence of a director controlling the stage, Relax. You don't know it yet, but bros, well, your boss's passion is the real deal. Keep believing in him till the end, and you should be able to turn the tables on a few legends that are only genuine. So, but I get what he's saying. Because, I'm gonna be real, I prefer Digimon the movie to watching the first 3 movies in Japanese. I know that's oh my god, is it a mockery of the original? Absolutely. But it's a mockery for me. you know? So yeah, I get what he's saying, and that's actually super cool. The idea he's saying that, yeah, there's things called imitations, but for some people, the imitation is the better thing. That's super cool. Anyways, I'm gonna take a quick sippy of my water. And you should too. Hydrate. Anyways, the police station, the chief's office. While the silver blade gleamed, time in the chief's office stood still. It was the female officer the katana was thrust at who broke the long silence. What do you mean, sir? I'm Vera Levitt, one of the members of Clan Calatin you assembled in your loyal subordinate. Should I consider this a form of workplace harassment? The chief narrowed his eyes at the woman's dispassionate speech. Impressive. That sounds like something Vera might actually say. I am Vera. No, the real Vera's on her way to the monitoring room. The chief did not say why, but he was certain. All the members of Clan Calatin, himself included, had electronic chips embedded in their shoulders. The chief would amplify the distance between those chips with his odd and sense them like he was bringing up a radar display. If he trusted that sensation, then the chip currently headed for the monitor room was Vera's. He could not detect a single other member inside his office. Whoever was masquerading as Vera seemed to be worrying about whether or not the chief's words were a bluff. A moment later, however, they sighed and shook their head. Just managed to read it. An IC chip. I can't copy something that complicated instantly. I suppose we ought to have taken a little more time, Master. Tension ran through the chief's body at that word. Then, as if to ease the tension, a gentle voice resounded through his office. Oh, an IC chip? They have some kind of electronic device embedded in their bodies? Wow, I certainly wouldn't be able to tell that. I guess I screwed up. The chief heard a sigh from a corner of the room and turned his gaze in its direction while maintaining his vigilance against the entity that had taken the form of his subordinate. He saw a dejected-looking Flatus. The one on the monitors is a diversion made with magecraft. Oh, I see, okay. The chief immediately sprung into action. His plan was to use the demonic beasts built into the office's wards to take Master hostage and prevent the servant from acting. If they're sneaking in like this, the heroic spirit's actual combat abilities must be low. Can I hold out until my people get back? If he activated the ward's internal defense systems, that fact would be communicated to the members of Clan Calatin. The chief immediately drew his pistol with his free hand and fired it downward. As the almost noiseless shot reached the floor, a special warhead activated the office's internal wards, and 3 demonic beasts materialized around Flatus. Then, play ball. Flat muttered something, and immediately the beasts hung their heads at Flat. They even began to wag their tails. What? That was not all. The activation of all the other defensive spells was nullified. Even Clan Calatin emergency notification system was shut down. Unbelievable. This isn't brute force like assassin in the hematophage. What a word. Gotta remind myself what that means, used 2 days ago. That's a vampire. Am I supposed to believe that he overwrote magecraft that had already been deployed in real time and took over my entire system? The blessed, cursed child. The chief had only a moment to appreciate that the nickname given to the boy Flatus was no exaggeration before. Game select. God, is he just the guy from Kamen Rider X-Aid? This is awesome! Flat muttered something again, closed his hand, and the demonic beasts returned where they had appeared and dematerialized. The chief was completely restored to... A situation was completely restored to what it had been before the activation of the defensive wards. But I still have a chance to counterattack. The instant the demonic beasts materialized, the members of Clan Calatin inside the station should have sensed their presence and made for the office. With 5 of them, including the real Vera, who would be able to gain the upper hand even against a genius and his servant. The question is, can I hold off his servant until then? At that point, the chief's eyes widened again. A second identical figure was standing beside the fake subordinate he was pointing at. Please, abandon your offensive posture, Chief of Police Orlando Reeve. The thing that seemed to be Flat's servant stated dispassionately in tones identical to Vera's. Oh, wait, you could do more? What? 2 more identical figures appeared in the room in the span of that brief sentence and pointed at the monitor on the chief's desk. The chief pulled away from them, shooting a glance at the monitor as he leapt back. What it displayed astonished him. Every camera showed Orlando and Vera. They were in multiple places, explaining something to the various members of the Clan Calatin individually. This isn't image modification. It's disguised as Vera and me. As this many of us. The heroic spirit in Vera's shape spoke, as if in answer to the chief's doubts. The population of this police station is now 40% me. Oh my god, this is a terrifying servant. The chief looked at the heroic spirit and at flat and silently sheathed his sword. Looks like you've seized the initiative. Oh, you understand then? Yeah, if you planned to kill me, I'm sure you would have easier ways to do it. You're showing off part of your power to gain an advantage in negotiations. It's just how the Mafia operates. Oh, no. All the wards were normally connected to you, sir, so I had them pose as one of your people to spy things out. I never expected you to see through it or things to end up in a fight. Sorry for startling you. The chief couldn't help furrowing his brows at the sight of Flat bobbing his head. He had heard that the boy did not have a mage's temperament. Why would such a gentle youth join the Holy Grail War? Or is it all an act, this included? And what did you want? Well, actually, I thought that if there's a master in the police station, I better go and meet them. Wait, what makes you think there's a master in the police station? Well, because there's a lot of mages around among the police officers walking around, and there's a mystic surveillance system centered on the police station. Plus, I thought that Saber, who made that speech on TV, might be here, and I used multiple layers of camouflage just to be safe. The fact that the surveillance system had been seen through made the chief scowl. After the strange skills he had been shown, however, it hardly surprised them. There's another surveillance system connected to the city's correction center? Is that a prison? But this place was closer. That must be Faldius' surveillance net, so even he couldn't pull it off. The chief just felt a little relieved and moved on to the next question. If you're to propose an alliance, you must have a target in mind. Who is it? What? Oh, no, sorry, it's not exactly an alliance. Huh? We came to report. Report. Orlando, who was a police chief before he was a mage, had heard the word ceaselessly throughout his life. Now, however, he frowned as if he had never heard it before. You see, Flat explained, it looks like someone who's hospitalized might be a master in this Holy Grail War. What? And since this morning, the people in the hospital has been, that person in the hospital has been using faint magical energy to connect to a huge number of people in the city. So, well, I thought that if someone connected to the police knew about magecraft, I'd better let them know. Oh, this is interesting. Oh, this is interesting. Oh, this is really interesting. Snowfield Central Hospital. The doctor who was in charge of Kuraoka Tsubaki's case received a message that there was a phone call for her and made her way to the office. Oh, Dr. Levitt, it's from your sister. Well, thank you. Oh, yeah, Levitt, yeah. It's not often that she calls me. She took the receiver from a female nurse and addressed the younger sister who had contacted her herself only the day before. Hello, Vera? Sorry, I'm in the hospital, so I can't use my cell. Not a problem. It looks like the chaos in the city is still going on, and I was worried that it might be affecting you over there. Oh, there was a fire over in the factory district, wasn't it? We're fine here, although it seems like the psych ward is still getting a lot of people who say the relatives refuse to leave town. I wonder what could be causing it. By the way, Amelia, how is Kuraoka Tsubaki's condition? Oh, little Tsubaki? As a matter of fact, she's been great these past few days. So great it wouldn't surprise me if she woke up at any moment. The only strange thing is an odd mark on her hand. A mark? I thought it was someone's... We actually saw her in the anime, so this is like, yeah, we know of her. We've seen her. This is cool, I like it. I thought it was someone's idea of a joke at first, but it doesn't scrub off and it doesn't look like a tattoo either. It's like a bruise. But it's... Since it appeared that her condition's improved. Oh, don't misunderstand me. I don't think it improved because of the shape of the mark or anything occult like that. You can tell this written in America because that word only exists in Japanese media now. In America, we call it satanic. After a little more small talk, the doctor, Amelia Levitt, ended the call. Isn't your sister climbing pretty high in the police, even though she's so young? Yes, she inherited her mother's strict way of talking, probably because she grew up with her. But that probably makes her a perfect fit for the place. From there, Amelia made straight for Tsubaki's room, muttering to herself under her breath. Still, it's been a long time since she showed any interest in Tsubaki. Okay, so they were monitoring her before. It makes sense, because it's a mage family. The police station, chief's office. The real Vera hung up the phone and turned expressionlessly back to the chief. I've confirmed it. It seems that, as Mr. Escardo says, command seals have manifested in Kuraoka Tsubaki. Is the person who mentioned the mark on her arm a relative? Oh, is the person who mentioned the mark on her arm a relative of yours, miss? My sister. Because she has no magical aptitude, she was raised in ignorance of this world. Vera spoke dispassionately. Flat smiled at her. And both you work jobs helping people. That's amazing. Thank you. I don't know much about myself, but my sister is a genuine hard worker. Flat spoke with an air, not of sarcasm, but of genuine respect. Vera thanked him, albeit brusquely. Judging by her words, she was probably more pleased to hear her sister acknowledged than herself. At that point, the chief cleared his throat. In other words, she summoned a servant while unconscious. Is that possible? Yes, sir. Depending on the circumstances, it may be possible that the heroic spirit is operating independently. Why the girl, and not Mr. or Mrs. Kuraoka? Is there any connection to the fact they're still holed up in their house? The better ordered their information became, the more questions arose. They could use police authority to interfere with the hospital. Without knowing the identity of the servant they were up against, however, it would be tantamount to leaping into a trap. We could use large-scale magecraft to blow away the hospital room? The chief heard Flat's suggestion, and the furrows on his brow deepened. When that time comes, we may have no other choice. But I sealed a pact with Clan Calatin under the pretext that we would be just. It's my job to guarantee that they are. And thus I can at least declare that sacrificing that girl is just, and there's no other way. I'd like to take that option off the table. The chief spoke the words bitterly. Flat, hearing them, let out a sigh of relief. Oh, I see. I'm relieved to hear it. If you were the kind of people who would do the first thing, I wouldn't be able to ally with you. A lot of mages everyone talks about would probably go straight through it without a second thought. You were testing me? The chief surveyed Flat with a heavy sigh. It's true. We may not be proper mages. Not this boy, and not me. A mage who puts rationality first would normally eliminate the unconscious girl without mercy. What I ultimately chose will be order for the greatest number. I will state that, if the damage seems likely to spread more than it has, I am capable of turning my gun on that girl. Yes, sir. But as long as you'll come out and say so, I can introduce you without fear. Introduce me. Smiling. Okay, sorry, I was a little bit confused there. I see what he's saying. A smiling Flat produced a device from his pocket and passed it to the suspicious chief. It was a cell phone, and it was already connected to somewhere. It has 27 levels of encryption on my end, and the other end has taken measures as well, so I don't think you have to worry about being eavesdropped on magically or technologically. Go ahead. The chief put the phone to his ear, as prompted. The man on the other end of the line seemed to sense that and spoke. Is this Chief of Police Orlando Reeve responsible for coordinating the Snowfield City Police? The voice sounded young but intimidating in its own way. Speaking. Who is this? The chief asked, assuming some collaborator of Flat's. Then an idea struck him and he froze. It couldn't be. The man on the other end of the receiver opened his mouth to confirm or deny the chief's suspicion, simply to inform one of Snowfield's masterminds who and what he was, to speak the name of a man who was to alter the destinies of numerous mages, including Flat and the chief, but to go down in the history of the Holy Grail War. An instructor in modern magecraft at the clock tower. I generally go by the borrowed name of the second, Lord El Malloy the Second. The man who had introduced himself as the clock tower's highest authorities piled more words on the chief, who was wide-eyed with surprise. To you, however, I will give you a different name. Waver Velvet, a simple third-rate mage who once participated in Fuyuki's Holy Grail War. Oh, frickin', How long is this interlude? Oh, this one's super short. Let's read this one. Okay. Interlude. The Parade of Treachery. One more. Short one. And then we'll check the next one too if it's also short. Wetland Mansion. Even as the day progressed, Faldius' unit did not return to their positions around the mansion. Sigma, who had confirmed that fact by the words of Watcher's shadows, opened a notepad and decided to organize his information. Saber had announced that the soldiers keeping watch around them must be terribly hungry, and was currently out bringing refreshments he had prepared. Oh my god, really? Oh my god, this guy. What a good guy, right? Was currently bringing refreshments he prepared from the preserved foods in the mansion to the remaining snipers, spotters, and scouts. What a guy. Actually, that's really nice. Oh my god. According to the shadows, Saber's sudden appearance beside them had sent the snipers and spotters into a panic. Apparently, they nearly attacked him, although things had since been settled amicably. That to me is such a fate thing. Just like, oh, are we surrounded by people? Well, they gotta eat. I love fate. Ike had been in the mansion throughout. As for whether she was defenseless, however, the shadows reported that the mage Saber brought with him was protecting her, a noble phantasm that summons allies. I never expected that. Heroic spirits have hidden depths. Sigma went on organizing information, blind to the fact that he was contracted with the most unusual servant of all. Assassin was currently patrolling the area around the mansion. She was refusing to use magical energy from her master, the Hematophage, and was apparently being supplied by the aforementioned mage summoned with Saber's noble phantasm in exchange for a temporary truce. Sigma sympathized with Assassin's circumstances, having placed her life in the hands of a stranger. She was wary of Faldius' forces. The shadows guessed that she planned to immediately dispatch any remaining scouts that launched an attack on her. They were surmising her personality based on her actions so far. It seemed that even Watcher's power was not fully capable of reading minds. So even Watcher isn't omnipotent. It seemed that, even when it came to the assassin's noble phantasm, it had only been able to warn him because it had seen the hair attack she had already invoked at the police station. If it had been an attack that Watcher had never seen before, he could have no warning from the captain. I guess I was saved by chance, Sigma thought as he made his pen race across the pad. He wrote in a code that only he could understand, just in case he was watched by Saber or Assassin. From where I'm standing, just looks like an evil spirit is forcing you to write gibberish. Or, no, that's the captain. From where I'm standing, it looks like an evil spirit's forcing you to write gibberish. Sigma ignored the captain's words and asked another question. I'd like to confirm the differences in combat strength between each faction. Apart from Faldius' forces, how many are engaging in the Grail Wars organizations? Let me see. In terms of sheer numbers, it'd have to be the team, the police chief, and Dumas, who control the regular police. As for danger in small numbers, there's that one inside the homunculus Haruri Borzak's tagging along with. Insider? Who is it? Well, that's the question now, isn't it? They haven't revealed themselves yet, so even Watcher isn't sure. Of course, when it comes to someone that strong, that damned Watcher ought to be able to guess by their presence, but... what's it going to be? Is Watcher going to be like... on the one hand, it might be like Nasu, but I think it might be like Zelrech, who's watching the world. Is there a chance it's like an alter version of, like Merlin? Like if Merlin alter is a thing and he's like, because he watches the world and these are like the shadows cast by him based on stories he's read, maybe. That's an idea. I have many ideas who it could be. Don't know. Anyways. At that point, he vanished. The boy with the snake staff took up the conversation. She's completely isolating her presence. She's also utilizing her power in spite of that, so she must be remarkable. It isn't just Watcher. Even Enkidu, who possesses presence detection abilities of the highest level, hasn't noticed her existence, or that of Haruri's heroic spirit. I see. There are many other teams you ought to be wary of. Some of them act wordlessly and dispassionately, so even we can't fully grasp their objectives. We can't get a read on the movements of Hippolyte's group yet, nor can we guess what that Silver Wolf and Enkidu will do until they act. I see. In that case, I can't let my guard down with factions that operate in small numbers either. Sigma refocused, thinking that, as he suspected, it would not be easy. What about the Protectors of the Land led by Tina Chelk? Their operating forces are currently 56 strong and active in the city. There should be more at the base in the ravine, but their village is out of range of Watcher's observations. Okay, no, it's a specific area. Okay. Teenage Chalk's strength is about 46 people. Aren't there 56? Sigma was confused by the discrepancy in numbers. 7 are traders for other organizations, the boy with the snake staff answered in a matter-of-fact tone. 3 have been approached and are wavering. They won't be of any use. I see. Sounds rough. There are traders in every organization. There are 3 humans in Faldis' unit working for the Scradio family, and a mage of Francesca's level can easily make a human change sides with a single suggestion, even if they're not a trader. That kind of randomness does sound like Francesca. Having expressed his half-sarcastic impression of his real employer, Sigma asked Watcher another question. What about the factions whose future movements you can predict? Vladiscardos and the chief of police have formed a temporary alliance. At 10 at night, the chief should convene with Clan Calatin, communicate his plan to them, and begin operations at the central hospital. Why at the hospital? Well, Master is materialized there and is hospitalized there in unconscious state. Her heroic spirit hasn't shown itself yet, but it appears to be acting already. It seems to be possessing and controlling townspeople. The scale of it has swollen to tens of thousands of people, and so the chief of police won't be able to leave it alone. Sigma asked for more. That's crazy, he knows that. Sigma asked for more details. It seemed that Flat and the police had formed an alliance and planned to quarantine and examine a girl. As the girl was infected with a virus improved by the current Okas, they would act with more caution than usual. A hematophage is sleeping by the girl's bedside, but his reasons are unclear. He did mutter something to himself about using her to bring down Assassin. The Shadow, now the boy with mechanical wings, related information concerning the vampire Jester Karchur. Apparently, Assassin's master had quite a twisted personality. Sigma listened to the information and considered how he should act. How he should act. Should I stay quiet? Or should I intervene directly? Or pass part of the information to Faldius and let him deal with it? Sigma considered a variety of possibilities. Then the Shadow said something that threw him into even more confusion. And, it's not definite, but after 10 p.m., Alcides may head for the hospital. Azelot's bowman? Why? Because he'll probably find out about the girl there. It's simple, boy, the chief, now the captain, said to the bewildered-looking Sigma. Didn't I tell you the chief's going to explain the operation at Clan Calatin at 10 o'clock? You don't mean... Dirty cops. I doubt even His Excellency the police chief suspects that some of his people are in the Scradio family's pocket. Damn. Alright, guys. I think next part's gonna be the last part for this volume. Oh, this is so good. Oh, it's so good. Oh, it's so good. We'll continue with some more of Fate's Strange Fate as we finish up volume 4 next time, guys. We got like 30 pages left, roughly. We can do that. So we'll see you then for that, for the end of volume 4 with chapter 13. At last, a second and a third. Huh? What does that mean? I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll see you guys then. Ciao.
Yo.